Hello and welcome to Sav Exclusive. I'm your host, Natasha. On this particular episode, we'll be speaking with an exceptional broadcast journalist who works with Channels Television here in Nigeria. Do stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, Engineer Charles Opurum. I've just had that already, even though you corrected me behind the scenes. But nice to have you here.
Thank you. And the name is Opurum.
Opurum.
Yes, stick with Charles. Stick with Charles. It's fine. It's fine.
I had one of my interviews. His surname was Akbu, and he had to say it to me like severally just so that I get it right. I'm still trying to be, very.
Have you ever lived in Benin before?
I haven't.
Okay.
And I would love to even go there. I've never been there as well.
Okay, so I was living and working there for like 4 years. And one time I had to I was casting news on the radio, and they wrote the name of the Oba of Benin, that's the king of the Benin kingdom. And everything they wrote, like, you have to rehearse the news before, right? So it wasn't my turn to cast news that day, but it was the turn of my colleague. When she saw the name, she tried to pronounce it, and she said no, she can't, because the Beninese, they hold their monarch in high regard, right? So they had to pass it on to me. And when I looked at it, I called the baby, I said, pronounce this name for me. And he pronounced it. Now it goes like this: Omo Noba Nedo Uku Apolopolo Oba Ewai the second. Yeah,
I would have totally gotten that wrong. I would have been in trouble.
So I had to memorize the name very well. So the Beninese have very interesting names. So I learned how to pronounce.
So Mr. Charles Opurum.
Opurum.
I got it right. Just give me that. Give me that.
Five.
Thank you. All right. So your backstory. Journalism. You were a broadcast journalist. Was that what you studied back in school?
No, just like you referred to me as engineer.
Engineer. Absolutely.
My first degree is in engineering. Mechanical engineering, industrial production engineering. That's my first degree from the prestigious Federal University of Technology, Owerri. So that's where I went to school. But as a child growing up, many kids watch TV, play video games. I did play video games. I did watch TV. I don't deny that. But growing older, secondary school, radio was my dad's mainstay. So my dad had this transistor radio, a bigger radio. I don't know what it's called, but black, big. He used to listen to radio very early in the morning. In fact, whenever my dad was in the house, the radio must be on. That's just how it was. So we had TVs, but the TVs were like literally, there were cobwebs on the televisions. He didn't really like watching television. He preferred listening to the radio, right? So from early in the morning, 5 a.m., 4:35 a.m., he's listening to Voice of America on shortwave. So I was also listening to Voice of America because his room is next to my room, right? So I could hear whenever the radio was on. And when Voice of America was done, he would always switch back to, the local radio stations. In fact, there was this program that used to come on very early in the morning then called Nuggets of Wisdom. I don't forget it. It's by Pastor Austin Nadi. Because of my dad, I literally memorized everything the guy used to say, So listening to radio came naturally, and then when radio was deregulated, the broadcast space and more private stations came up. I come from Owerri, Imo State, so Hot FM came up, and that was like the go-to station at the time because it was more funky, and I was listening to them, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to sound like them. I loved the way they sounded, and I think that was where the seed was sown in my heart, like. And then I decided, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to do. And on campus, I was doing a private radio station in my off-campus hostel apartment. So, that's basically how the journey started. Then youth service, I tried to volunteer with the OBS in camp. It didn't work. I was turned down. I went for 1 or 2 auditions. One of them was at Wazobia Max. I was turned down. Thank God they turned me down, though. Who knows, I would have been reading Pidgin News by now. So eventually I, started volunteering. I was working as an engineer, engineering procurement somewhere in Enugu State. And then I volunteered with Ray Power FM. God bless them, I was doing sports. And then from there I moved. My first real job was with Authority FM, my radio / Authority FM, Authority FM in Anambra State. It's owned by Senator Ifeanyi, right? So I was there until I then moved to KUFM in Benin City. So from Anambra to Benin. So I was at KUFM.
That's a long journey. It's like you just keep going from state to state, broadcasting.
I'm a traveler, by the way, so you should know. I am a traveler. So while I was working at KUFM Benin, that was where I then started exploring other aspects of myself. You know, I originally wanted to be a sportscaster. I started out doing sports, covering the Nigerian Professional Football League, the Nigerian National League, other leagues. You know, but my supervisor at the time thought I would do well in other endeavors. So he suggested I join the crew that were doing newspaper reviews. This was when I was doing my training, actually. So I did join them, and I was doing well. And he suggested he said, Charles, I think you should venture into politics. You would do well there. So I was reviewing papers and doing sports. Then when I went to KUFM, I hope I'm not boring you with my stories. Oh, yeah. I know I'm not. I'm a good storyteller. So, yeah. So when I got to KUFM, I was originally doing the drive time show in the evening with a colleague, a friend of mine. Her name is Suba. She's actually from River State here. But we just met and we started working together and we clicked. So, but my head of programs at the time and my good friend Gucci was joining Cool FM Port Harcourt. So he recommended to the management, he said, look, I don't know, but I think this young man, Charles, should promote him to become the morning show host. Don't leave him on the drive time. Now, on the drive time, it's more laid back. It's more entertainment, music, just, you know, that kind of thing, very laid back. But the morning show is a bit more hardcore. It's longer. It's a mishmash of different things, you know. And then there's politics. So, which is a specialist area in broadcasting. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Just like our governor will say, if he didn't do, he didn't do. So, yeah. So, I had to start doing the morning show. And then I started sharpening myself. They say iron sharpened iron. I started working. Consuming a lot of content, political content, history, law books. I was reading law books. Literally, I was reading the Constitution of Nigeria.
Because you had to be well informed.
Yes,
to know what you're talking about.
And that's the problem with new broadcasters, the up and coming ones. They just feel like broadcasting is jump in front of a mic and start talking.
And say whatever you have to say.
You just say a load of rubbish and you don't know what you're talking about, right? So I had to start working on that, knowing. Now, I also had to build a network. So the beauty of your morning program, of your political talk show, is not about you. People don't tune in to listen to you. People tune in to listen to the information that is going to come out of
from your show.
Your show. Everything can come from you. So let's say, what's the most trending issue? Okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria has redesigned the Naira notes. I think it was unveiled today, right? So if I'm going to discuss that on my show, look at my age. When was I born? Am I aware of when Nigeria started using the Naira? I have to go look for somebody who's a professional in that field, right? Who would explain these things properly. So you do the groundwork, you get the professional, you also study to make sure they don't take you by surprise, right? So you put in the work and you grow the network. You have to convince the person to come on your show, you know. So now imagine if I then go on air, I don't do any work. I say, okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria has redesigned the Naira notes.
To pink and purple.
Blah, blah, blah. To LGBTQ colors, if you like. So at the end of the day, I then talk for like 1 or 2 minutes. And then
you say nothing.
And then you open the phone lines and say, oh, Colin, what do you think? It's lazy broadcasting. That's very lazy. And that is what we see go on these days on radio, mostly on radio. So yeah, I was working at KU for a while, 4 years before channels came knocking. Like, I like to think about...
And with channels, you said you just recently even started working with them.
Oh, yes.
And you've already been sent on a dead mission. but what would you describe your transition like? What would you say the differences are that you have experienced transitioning from radio to TV?
So I'm going to say this in the form of advice. So if you are watching this, as I know you are, and you are a radio host, and you intend to transition from radio to TV, forget all you know in radio. Don't come with the mindset of, oh, I know it all. So yeah, it's not the same thing. Sit down in the studio and talk. No. Especially if you're transitioning from on-air personality to reporter. It's like how do I say this? It's like you are moving from being a striker in a football team to becoming a goalkeeper or a defender. They are two different skill sets, right? So it's challenging. You know, as an on-air personality, you are in programs department. Now, these days, because private stations want to cut costs, we now have a hybrid. So OAPs now cast news. Sometimes on-air personalities even go out to do reports. So there's like a cross between the newsroom and the programs department, right? I was fortunate. I'm one of those people who would go out to do reports, special reports as an on-air personality. And it was, you know, it was eye-opening for me. I understood how the news works. Now, coming to TV, becoming a television reporter was completely different. You have to script for TV. Scripting for audiovisual is different. Working with a cameraman, I now have to work with a cameraman. Like, you can't go alone, you have to go with a crew, like you and your cameraman. In fact, for the mission you talked about, I had to go with 3. Like me, the cameraman, and my drone pilot. So there were 3 of us now. So, and you have to now start telling, because you're always a team leader, you have to keep telling them, get me this kind of shot, get me this kind of shot, because you are supposed to tell stories with your shots. Even if you don't talk, even if you're doing a still transitioning, right, and you're not talking, somebody watching your transitions
should be able
to understand what is happening. Oh, wow, oh, did they go here? Oh, is this what happened? Oh, and they're not listening to anything, just a shot. So it doesn't just happen like that. You have to learn it, right?
So describe to us this particular, should I call it expedition? Should I call it an adventure? But dangerous at the same time, and very enlightening too, to see that there's such a thing as, you know, oil theft from Nigeria to another country, another African country, and then we have to find that out and try to get the vessel back to our nation. Like, when we see these things happen, you know, like the last report that happened back in Owerri, where it was found that there was a pipe siphoning oil, and that story did a number here in Nigeria. People were wondering, so this kind of thing is happening here.
You didn't know there was oil theft going on?
No, but no, you know how there was never a video coverage of that kind of magnitude. So it was eye-opening to a lot of us Nigerians. And now you also went on such, you know, an expedition. Let's hear more about that.
Okay, so you know, when people talk about oil theft, you think about what they call fire.
Bunkering.
Yeah, in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, and, you know, maybe
Niger
Delta, Bayelsa, these places. Yeah, Akwa Ibom doesn't really suffer it because they do more of offshore. So what we see on the surface is just you know, somebody sees a pipeline, they tap, they take oil and all that. My dear, that is about 5% of the whole oil theft in Nigeria. The big heist is happening on the high seas. So what happened was, let me just, you know, put everything in perspective. A ship, this kind of ship is called a VLCC. VLCC stands for Very Large Crude Carrier. So you can carry about 3 million liters of crude oil or whatever liquid you had. So it came to Nigeria's territorial waters to lift crude. An offshore field, oil field called Akpo oil field. Excuse me. So the Navy intercepted this vessel. Before the Navy intercepted, usually the NNPC, now NNPC Limited, provides the Navy with a list of all the vessels that are supposed to come to Nigeria in the year to lift crude, right? So lifting crude is not like you driving to the filling station and saying, "Oh, God, put petrol in my car." No, it doesn't work like that. So it's a complicated operation because every ship is registered. There's a world insurance book. The country you're going to visit, the last port of call is known. The next port of call is known, right? So it's not like driving where you can be driving somewhere and then you change your mind and then turn elsewhere. No, it doesn't work like that. It's like flying. Once you've filled your flight plan, you're flying from Abuja to Lagos. You can't halfway now change and say you're going to Kano without, it doesn't work like that. You must alert the authorities, okay, I can't land. So that's how it is with shipping. So that's just a preamble. So it came into our territorial waters. It was accosted by the Navy. The Navy dispatched the fast patrol boats to intercept. It got there, and, you know, the conversation happened between the captain of the crude carrier, which is called MT Heroic Idun, that's the name, and the Navy ship called NNS Gongola, Nigerian Navy ship Gongola. It refused to obey the Gongola to, follow it to anchorage and be checked because it did not have the required documentation. And it escaped and went to Ziva in Equatorial Guinea. So the Navy got so mad because the Navy was already receiving a lot of backlash because of the incident you pointed out where a ship was arrested and set on fire. But not many people know that that ship had been arrested 6 times before, or rather 5 times before. That was the 6th time. So the Chief of Defense Staff got very angry, like the same ship 5 times. So this is the 6th time I'm going to no, just burn it. I don't want to see it again. Just burn it. I will never arrest it again. So, but people were saying stuff like, oh, okay,
why would you burn it?
Why are you burning this? They don't even know what happened, right? This particular one, the Navy was saying we must get the ship back to Nigeria by fire by force. Fortunately, I was in Port Harcourt. I had been covering Navy activities here in Port Harcourt. The Navy engaged in humanitarian services. When the flood took over East-West Road, the Navy was crossing people with boats from River State to Bayelsa side. But are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, so I was there. And they liked the kind of reports I put out. They were humanitarian reports. So, these guys, they like, oh, okay, you're highlighting some of the activities we do. So that's why it's good as a journalist. So take this if you are an aspiring one. Build relationships. You have to build relationships with institutions, with the big shots, so that they can always reach out to you. So the long and short of everything is the Navy took me on the adventure to Malabo to bring back this ship by force. We got there. I literally spent 8 days on the Atlantic Ocean like, oh my God.
With seasickness?
I suffered seasickness, yeah. I did. I didn't throw up. No, I did not. But I had to have my injections, I couldn't sleep in the cabin that was provided for me because, of course, the movement of the vessel would make you seasick. So, and then at the end of it all, my respect for the Navy, the men and the officers of the Nigerian Navy actually increased because I saw for myself firsthand what they could do, what they did. They even told me, look, in case a firefight starts, in case they fire on us, go to the bridge. It's bulletproof. Stay there. So
it was a dangerous journey, actually. It could have gone
anyway. Yeah, it could have gone anyway because when we got there was a frigate. A frigate is a kind of battle warship from the Equatorial Guinea standing by. But we went to 2. The one I was on and another one, which was built by the Nigerian Navy. Do you know that the Nigerian Navy builds?
Absolutely. When you said that to me, I was shocked. And I think one of the disadvantages we even have with, I don't know if it's to say with the media or with these institutions, is the fact that they don't do enough PR based off of what they do. So most of our citizens, we look at them and we say, you're not doing much, especially because what is out there in the media is the negatives highlighting on their inefficiencies. But they don't say, this is what we do, this is what we have done, and they cover it and put it out there in our faces so that we see. So most of the time, this sort of things that they get involved in, we don't take note of it. We don't even know about it.
I told one of the admirals, I will not mention his name now, I told him, look, you guys are a victim of your own quietness or silence. In advertising, we say, if you don't say this is where I am, nobody will know this is where you are. That's why big companies spend a lot of money
in marketing, advertising.
So I mean, in 5 months of 5.5 months of working with Channels TV, fantastic company by the way. I know. Yeah, I'm lucky. I work with one of the best, if not the best in Nigeria, the best TV station. So I've had missions with the Navy. That was that. I've also had a mission with the Air Force. I flew in helicopters.
You seem to have had a lot of expeditions.
I've got a mission with the Army.
But we'll get into more
so, yeah,
story
it's fun.
right after the short break.
Hey there. Are you looking to record your videos, do your voiceovers, and take your professional pictures? Look no further. With our state-of-the-art newsroom, photography, kitchen for our food content creators, and exclusive children's studio, we certainly can deliver the best studio experience. Our carefully designed studio space can bring your diverse creative content ideas to life. We aim to consistently serve value to our customers far and wide. Come, let Tharv Media give life to your dreams. Tharv Media, a slice of infotainment.
Now, you've been on a lot of expeditions. Like, if I were to ask you, each and every one of them, I'm sure, will not exhaust it on the show because of time constraint. But one thing I would like to ask you, with journalists here in Nigeria, in practicing journalism, is there any room or is there any avenue for life insurance coverage? Because what you went on could have been dangerous. At the end of the day, what if there was a shootout and then you were injured in a way or another? Is there any avenue for that? Is there any for insurance over your life in case such negatives come up?
Maybe they exist, but I'm not aware of them, right? Okay. Maybe they exist. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist because I don't know for a fact that they don't exist, but I know that our colleagues in Western climes, in the West, the United States, Canada, the UK, the Scandinavian countries, these guys have massive budgets. They have life insurance, especially for those of them who cover conflicts, right? But I'm yet to see a Nigerian journalist who has life insurance from a Nigerian media organization. It's one of the constraints some of us as journalists have, So I would really love to see that. That is going to be a game changer. If I know that
your life is insured.
My life is insured. Insurance will not save you from a bullet, but it will guarantee that the loved ones you're leaving behind,
there's some
they're going to be catered for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, maybe you have a beautiful new wife and you have 2 new babies, and then you lose your life on the job, who's going to provide for them? So, but if there's insurance, okay, fine, it's going to take care of my kids up till the university level. It's going to take care of my wife, set her up in business or something else, or whatever she chooses to do. If the insurance cover, maybe it's an injury, I lost a limb or something, it's going to take care of my medical bills and all of that, then you'll be more courageous. You'll be more courageous. You pursue those stories and go to those remote locations that people are loath to visit. You would go there. So yeah, I would love for that to happen.
So definitely, this is one of the avenues media institutions need to look into.
Oh yes. But I also you can't really blame the media organizations too much. The harsh economic climate in the country makes it difficult because, do not forget, the private media organizations are a business, first of all, right?
They're in for profit.
They have to pay salaries, right? They have to pay taxes and all of that. So if you are barely breaking even, would you take on all of this other stuff? The answer is, what the answer would be. So it's not easy. The harsh economic climate actually affects the practice of media in the country. So yeah, but I would really like to see that happen, to see more media organizations embrace this. But that has to happen with an improvement in cash flow, income generation and other stuff.
How would you describe the practice of journalism here in Nigeria, as regards free press, and transparency in actually covering such illegal activities? Because it does quite take a lot for investigative journalists actually to be able to go into this creek or this crook areas and try to expose what's going on. There's a lot of bias, especially with the political class, and then they'll clamp down on such persons and say, no, this kind of report shouldn't go out and all of that. How would you describe the practice here in Nigeria?
Okay, so I think it's a mixed. I think my colleagues in Nigeria actually are doing wonders within a very tight, controlled environment. Now, if they had a better environment within which to operate, they would compete with anybody anywhere in the world, right? So Nigeria's media space is, I just finished a training yesterday where one of the professors who lectured us pointed out that Nigeria's media space is too personality-oriented, focused on personality. So what that means basically is that the big shots get more screen time, right, as opposed to other stories, right? So if in Rivers State, for instance, you would discover that majority of the coverage given to news items in the state would most likely revolve around the governor and the political party, right? This is to the detriment of other just as important, other things that are just as important, so, but that is the bane of journalism practice in Nigeria, especially with the broadcast. Now, journalists also suffer from poor remuneration. Not many of them are well paid, right? I mean, I'm one of the few fortunate ones who works, an organization that pays very well, right? So, but I can't say that for many of my colleagues who work for smaller organizations. If there was some sort of grants or some sort of fund they could access, it would make things a lot better, Imagine a journalist earning 50,000, 60,000 doing the job. What kind of stories would they churn out? They would go out and a politician will give you a brown envelope containing 3 months of your salary and tell you, this is how I want the story to be framed. And they will do that because he who pays the piper no longer dictates the tune, but he who pays the piper is the one playing the tune now. So that's what's going on with some of my colleagues, So, but yeah, many of us are still brave, who turn down some of those unethical offers. In my company, it's against our rules. You're not allowed to accept stuff like that.
Thank you packages.
Brown envelopes.
Thank you.
You're not allowed. Gratification. You're not allowed to accept that. So the moment they hear or discover you accepted, you're going. You go from there. Go and work for the person that's...
Are these grants accessible? Are they easily accessible?
Accessible, yes. Easily, no. So they are accessible. Yeah, there's some of them like the Wole Soyinka Foundation for Reporters, I think. I don't know the exact name, but something with Wole Soyinka's name. I know a lady I just met yesterday who said she had actually won the prize based on the report she did. So yeah, we must give kudos to those guys. Then there are other foundations like the Ford Foundation. I think, maybe MacArthur Foundation as well. They support journalism in their own way with grants. There are some foreign missions in Nigeria like the American Embassy, the British Council, who also support. But yeah, while these are laudable and admirable, they are just a drop in the ocean. So accessible, yes. Easily, no.
Not quite. Now, I mean, one of the backlash that the government has had over time has been their clampdown on free press, freedom of speech.
They would argue otherwise, but continue.
But so people have been clamoring, Nigerians have been clamoring, we want to be able to say as we please and report as we please without having any interventions, from the government or from people in high places. And we see people try to put out their reports on social media and all of that, and then before you know, you either have the DSS or one of these forces coming to your doorstep, So it's something that, Nigerians are really, picked about. So my question to you is, what can the government do to further ensure that there's such a practice of free press?
Okay, so first off,
in a democratic, country, as we so say.
Okay, so first off, don't you already express yourself the way you want on Twitter? So much so that the government had to ban Twitter. But then, ever since they unbanned it, have you not been... We have been expressing ourselves, right? In fact, there's so much bile on social media, right? Now, having said that, what you're talking about is regulation. For broadcast organizations, we are regulated by the NBC, the National Broadcasting Commission, right? And we have a code called the NBC Code, which you have to follow. I think it's perfectly normal for there to be regulation. If there is no regulation, then there will be a lot of libel, there will be a lot of defamation going on, false accusations going on. In the United Kingdom, they have the Oxfam, yeah, that's what it's called, I think, yeah, Oxfam, who regulates broadcasting in the UK. So much so, I think there was one of these, is it Love World? What was this Pastor Chris's church again?
Okay, Love World.
They were fined. Their TV in the UK was fined for propagating false information. So first off, regulation, that there is no regulation in some of these countries is a myth. It's not true. There is always regulation for broadcast organizations, for the media. However, regulation is different from censorship, right? Regulation means I am trying to make sure that the ethics. You have to follow the ethics and all that. Censorship now means, oh, you shouldn't see this now. Don't you know you're going to offend this person? No, no, don't write this now. You're going to offend that person. So you're trying to prevent certain narratives from getting into the open. That is no longer regulation. That is now censorship. So there are two different concepts, right? Regulation is good. Censorship is not acceptable. Now, having said that, your question was, what can the government do to improve that? Now, there is actually a correlation between free press and how free a press is and how good the economy of a country is. Some of the countries that have the freest press in the world are the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and these countries are some of the richest countries in the world. The press is free, democracy thrives, there is money to go around, almost everybody is happy. Now, some of the countries that do not have free press, some of them are some of the most miserable countries in the world. Look around, Equatorial Guinea.
Third world countries?
Yeah, some of them. You get so poor countries with dictators who clamp down on free speech, and you begin to wonder, like, what the hell is going on here? So, the government of Nigeria is somewhere in between. They say, oh, we don't censor you. You're free to do what you want to do. Just obey the rules and regulations. But the way the NBC is set up, it is set up in such a way that it would always be susceptible to accusations of bias. Why do I say so? It's under the Ministry of Information and Culture, right? And the Minister of Information and Culture is appointed by the president. And the president belongs to a particular political party. And the political party is contesting the election and does not want to lose to another party. So
there's already a tunnel of bias somewhere.
Already. So no matter what they do, there would always be a room for bias. Oh, the minister appointed you. Because the minister appointed the DG of the NBC, the minister can always order the DG to do what he wants him to do. And the DG cannot say no because that's your boss, right? So that room, there's already bias there. Now, but organizations can actually go to court. Because the way the NBC is set up, it's set up in such a way that it would always be open to defeat. They've lost so many cases in court. Now, the NBC is set up to be the accuser, the prosecutor, the judge, jury, and the executioner. That goes against our judicial practice here. They will accuse you and say, on so and so day, you said this. This violates so and so rules. Therefore, you pay us 1 million naira. No room for you to come and defend yourself. That is what happens. I'm telling you because I've experienced it before. My station has almost been fined because of me. Not because of something I said, but because of something somebody called in to say on my show. And then they said, you're going to pay 500,000. And my boss called a meeting. Why would you allow somebody to say that kind of thing on the show? Don't be fine. You're going to pay that money. So eventually I said, okay, fine, don't worry. Allow me to handle it. It was handled and they rescinded the fine. But that was my baptism of fire with the NBC. So the government can actually build stronger institutions, allow the NBC to be independent. Let the Press Council and the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria have a say in how the DG of NBC is appointed. Let it be democratic. Like, okay, if the broadcasters choose so and so person to be the NBC DG alongside the government, right? We agree on so and so person. The person would be relatively independent. Like, yeah, I wasn't completely appointed by this person. This is what I had to say. So then there should be arbitration for organizations. It shouldn't be I accuse you and then I fine you. No. If I accuse you,
there should be room for you
let's
to
go
defend
somewhere
yourself.
and settle. Yeah, so you argue and say, no, I didn't do that. This is, you interpret the code in another way, and then there should be more tolerance. No. There's so much intolerance from the political class. So somebody goes on air and criticizes another person because I am in XYZ party and you are in YZ whatever party. And I say, this party is a failure. This party received so and so billion during their tenure. They failed to utilize the money properly. Therefore, they have failed. Vote them out. This is robust opposition politic language. Then you come and say, why would that radio station allow that person to go and criticize me? Don't they know I'm the governor of this state? Shut them down.
Absolutely
So
well
it's not
spoken,
acceptable.
Charles. Absolutely well spoken. So lastly, I'd just like to say, ask you, I know that there are a lot of aspiring journalists out there, and there's some already in school, can't wait to come out and start reporting, start broadcasting and all of that. What two exceptional qualities would you say that they have to imbibe to be able to stand out in their field?
Work hard regularly. Work hard. Focus, work hard. You have to work hard. You have to learn. You have to read. You have to observe. You have to, look up to those who are, get a mentor, You cannot want to enter into an industry and not know the big shots in that industry. So if you want to enter into broadcast journalism in Nigeria, for instance, there are people you look at, you look at Shehu, you look at Mawakwe, you look at Chamberlain, you look at Rufai, you look at Charles Aniagolu, Benga, Ruleba, on the local scene, right? You can, on the international scene, you can look at Sidney Sacker, Mehdi Hassan, Christian Amanpour, Richard Quest, to mention Piers Morgan, to mention but a few. So you have to look at these people, learn from them, observe what they do. While
still being an original.
Yes.
And not
copying. No, you could be influenced. This influence is not necessarily copying, right? You could be influenced by them without necessarily trying to sound like them. Yeah, this thing you said is very important. Some people start trying to sound like somebody. No. That's not, you don't. At the initial stage, you can do that when you're still trying to find your feet, maybe for the first year. But after the first year, now you have to branch off and become your person. And then the second thing is, you have to know for a fact this is what you want. I talk to younger people these days, and they start telling me stuff like, oh, I want to be an entertainment journalist. Oh, I want to be what did they say? How do you refer to people like Nancy, Sime, and VJ, that's the language to use. Well, I want to be a VJ, I want to be this. Okay, why do you want to be that? I want to be close to the celebrities. Okay, is that it? You see that's just it? They just want the glamour, the glamorous life.
And not the work and the professionalism attached to it.
And then your grammar has to be very good. You hear people, the other day I was driving and I was listening to radio and somebody said something that had my ears tingling. I was like, he was trying to say, okay, so he was referring to something, and I said, oh, he was supposed to say, what struck me most about the statement was, and then dude says, the thing that strikes me the most, and I literally I looked at my boss, we were together in the car, I'm like, when I looked at him, he looked at me, I was like, oh my God, a broadcaster should be the gold standard in spoken English. You shouldn't necessarily be a wacko. Get off TikTok. You don't need those things for now. You don't need Instagram. You don't need TikTok. You could watch YouTube videos of the people you want to learn from, right? There are YouTube shorts now. So if watching the long form video is too long, you can watch the shorts. No, but consume wholesome content and put out. And then write. The better you write, the better you speak. You can articulate your words very well, right? So that's my advice.
Thank you so much, Charles Opurum. I've learned so much as well from this interview, and I think that you're absolutely exceptional at what you do. We didn't have enough time for you to tell us all about that story.
I'll tell you privately backstage.
But yeah, definitely. And I wish there was somewhere, viewers could actually watch such that expedition, but I don't know.
Okay, so this is what I will do. It's actually on the Channels TV YouTube page, right? The story. However, I'm going to couple together some of my personal videos of me on the ship, some of me suffering from seasickness, the dolphins.
And you're going to put it on your page?
Oh, yes, I'll put it up. I haven't posted in a while, but my Twitter and my Instagram are Charles Opurum _. Okay, so I'll put it up there. Maybe by the weekend it should be up and running.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I enjoyed having this chat with you, and I hope you did too. This remains Staff TV, and I'm still your host, Natasha. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.